y'all, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm Nicole with the Bushel Designs, and today we're going to be working on a 20-ounce straight tumbler from the Tumbler supply store. I spray painted it with coordinating colors for the glitter that we're going to lay down for this ombre. I mostly used, I think, some Rust-Oleum, and then I believe I had a few iron lac colors, and I get those from Hobby Lobby, and I just did a really rough draft basically of those colors with the spray paint. That like corally color right there, you can see it kind of went wonky, so it's a really rough draft for the spray paints. And then once I let that dry, I gave it a really thin coat of epoxy. I am using Counterculture DIY's medium viscosity. And then my first glitter is Safari from Diamonds and Dust. All my glitters are Diamonds and Dust. So the first layer of glitter, I'm really just laying like a light foundation of where I want the glitters to go and how they blend. If you go full force, then that gives no room for the colors to blend into each other. So I'm just doing a really light coverage of where I want them to land basically. So the first one was Safari, the second one was Strawberry Champagne, and then I'm going in with this Sugarberry, but you'll see when I go back and lay other layers down, I do not go back in with Sugarberry. All the other colors are kind of more of an iridescent, and this wasn't as iridescent-y, and it had a lot of white in there, which was not what I really wanted. So I laid it down just a light coverage, and then I will cover it up more with some of the other colors. The blue color is Belly Flop, and the way I do an ombre is I try to lay the first row down in the center of that colored section. So as you can see here, I put the blue down the center, and then I tilt the cup in either direction to go towards the color before or the color after. And I raise the bottle of glitter a little bit higher, so you get a really softer landing of glitter on the tumbler, if that makes sense. We're just looking for a little bit heavier in the middle, but not super heavy yet, and then a sprinkling towards the other colors. And then when you do the other color into that sprinkling, it gives that really soft blend that you're looking for in a good ombre. The next color was Wannabe, that really pretty lavenderish color. It has some blue specks in it too, so it blends really well with the blue. And then the very bottom color is Lavender Lust. It is a little bit more opaque than the rest of the colors, but I just wanted something on the bottom that was a little bit more structured, I guess you could say. I don't know the word I'm looking for clearly, but I just wanted something a little bit more substantial on the very bottom. After that, I'm just going to go back in and complete the same process. And oftentimes, to build up that blend, I will go back 2, 3, sometimes 4 times, just really giving a little bit more coverage each time, and that is really what helps build that blend. When working on an ombre with glitter, I really like to use the epoxy method for adhesive, especially when I'm using multiple colors and I know that I'm going to be going over and over several times. The epoxy method really gives you the longest working time. I've tried it with other glues and glitter adhesives, and they just don't seem to give you that long coverage that you need to build up that blend. So I highly recommend the epoxy method for a glitter ombre. Once I was happy with this ombre, I set it aside and let it cure overnight, and then I gave it 2 really good coats of Rust-Oleum's clear glossy spray paint, and then 2 coats of epoxy. In the epoxy, I did add a little bit of white alcohol ink and added some misty clouds, kind of like the foggy graveyard tumbler that I made back in October, but I just did a really light cloud look. I didn't want it to overpower or take away from this beautiful sunset ombre. And then we are working with this sheet from AB Designs Co. This was for a cup swap, and she liked mountains and sunsets and camping. So I really wanted to work with that. And I kind of cut them apart to make it work better for what I wanted it to look like. So I kind of cut things out. This one was called Camping Scene 1. That is the sheet that I'm using. And it is a clear element sheet. So the only thing you will see on the tumbler is the black. So I really liked the trees and the fire and the chairs in this one. It didn't quite go all the way around, so I then decided I was going to cut apart some of the other ones. I really liked the mountains in the other long strip, so that's where I said I cut them apart. Like, the sheet is meant to be cut apart, but I also cut the designs apart to create my own custom look. So I'm going to apply this bottom one first. I want to make sure that I get it on as straight as possible. So I just lined it up. I cut a little bit off, and then we're just going to adhere it using the basic hinge method. So I'm going to apply that bottom row, and then I ended up going with a different decal. I liked Explore More better than the Camp More, Worry Less. I just felt like that way it wasn't just necessarily camping themed, but it kind of gave an outdoorsy but camping feel. So I just liked the way that one looked a little bit better with this design. So I applied that, and then I'm going to cut out the Explore More, and I'm going to figure out how to make it all work with those mountains. So I cut this one out, and I ended up loving the way the mountains landed with this Explore More decal. So I'll show you here in a second. But what I did was, because I loved those mountains, and I thought, oh, well, I will use these trees to fill in that little bit of space that is blank from where the decal didn't wrap all the way around. So I just basically cut out the chairs, and then I'm going to cut just to make it look like it kind of like isn't just chopped off this design. I just kind of cut in areas to make it look like it flows better. And then at the bottom where I put the trees, I'll show you how I'm going to make it all look cohesive. So I applied that mountain, and then on the other side, when I apply the Explore More, the trees fall right at the corners of that mountain, and it looks like trees up on the mountain. It was like perfect. I didn't even plan it, and it worked out perfectly. I, of course, had to get out my little rolly stand because, you know, I love this thing. It's from Doobie's Treasures on Etsy. I'll leave a link down in the description box, but it helps me so much put on things straight. I always feel like it's straight, and then it's not. So this thing is such a lifesaver. But then I'm going to add in those trees, and I don't want them to just be lined up at the bottom like the rest. I wanted it to give a little bit of height on that side too. So I'm just going to add both of those and then take my Posca black marker. This one's a little bit thicker, and I'm just going to basically scribble on the bottom and give it that same ground look as the rest of the actual decal, and just connect it to those trees so they are not floating in space, as I talked about in my video, I think the other day. No, it was my live in my mentorship group. We were talking about floating objects, so I don't want floating trees in this camping scene. So I just went around the whole thing and added a little bit more ground and connected it all so it had a little bit more substance on the bottom. There was a little bit more ground coverage, but enough that you could still see that purple on the bottom. I let the Posca marker dry just a little bit, and then I gave this beauty 2 final coats of epoxy, and it was all done. It is so simple to create such a beautiful design with those clear sheets. I love clear vinyl sheets. I'm like obsessed with them. I will find any reason to try to use them, especially if they are like this or a colorful one that is white backed. Those are my favorite. But this one, I love that the glitter ombre really just speaks for itself and then gives this an overall pretty design with those added elements without having to cut a single sheet of actual vinyl. So that is it. I hope that I have inspired you in some way or another. I hope that you go explore more today as well. It is our anniversary, so I'm super excited. We're going out of town tonight. Well, we're just going to the next town over to stay the night at a hotel, so I'm super excited. But as usual, I will leave all of the information down in the description box where to find all the products that I used and where you can find me. And I will be back on Saturday with another video. Bye, y'all.